We've been talking about cigarettes, and we're talking about the e-cigarettes part of it. It's something, it's always been seen that कुछ भी बैन करते हैं तो वो illegal हो जाता है. It gets underground, and I think it just you know gives the benefit to the syndicate criminals, where it just surfaces out with the same. I'll be very honest to what I'm talking about. We're talking about oral cancers if I talk about being a specialist in the same, and getting a referral from all over the country, where the not only this oral cancer but also the pre-cancers, because before the oral cancer really forms, it's the pre-cancers which we really have as one of the steps to the cancer completely, when it you will see it in the oral cavity. If I say oral pre-cancer, it's something like we get a scratch on a skin, and then it leads to if it is not treated, it gets to the wound. It's similarly in the oral cavity also. We have oral pre-cancers, which really gets to as a fulminating oral cancer subsequently. With an experience over the years, and that we are working upon the various research work of ours, including the molecular aspect to it, the treatment modalities and all, we find it extremely, extremely difficult to control the smokeless tobacco along with the smoking. It's always has been a synergistic effect, not just because of the cigarettes. I think cigarettes ka to itna sara VAT, and we have increased the taxes to it, that a common person has now gone from the cigarettes and getting into the consumption to the less regulated, like beedi or maybe pan masalas, chewable tobaccos, kharra, or name it as a snuff part of it. We are at a very elite kind of the group that we have. But I think I had a privilege to be associate with the DPS, where they would call me and they would ask me to deliver some lectures and sensitize the children. I was extremely shocked when there was this group from standard 4th, 5th and 6th, and they were all aware what we have been talking about as the ends part of it. Probably they knew more how to get them, where to get them, and when are they using it. It was completely, probably there were some aspects when I started, वो बच्चों को तो वो भी पता था जो शायद मुझे जाके दोबारा से उसको देखना पड़ा कि ये है या नहीं है. So I think if you're talking about something to really ingrain and to stop something, it has to come from the schools. We're talking about, because unless it comes from the school level, the children have been sensitized to it. It's going to be extremely difficult to really control. We have now patients who are not only using this smokeless tobacco, they're on this beedi or cigarettes or an alcohol. But the most difficult aspect are some of the herbal toothpastes, which have they claim that it has a clove into it, and then we are getting the patients who have the oral cancers being induced because of these herbal toothpaste, because there is no control even on what is the source of the clove in them, what kind of chemicals have been used, and cloves have been associated with some of the most carcinogenic aspects to it as well. So my submission here would be that it's as I think Dr. Gopal mentioned, that it has to come with the prescription. In countries like Australia or Sweden or these kind of countries, when we talk about them, they always say that when you're using or when you're trying to buy it out, they're supposed to take a session, and they're supposed to take a help from a group which says that why are you getting or why are you buying this product, and what can be the health benefits and the consequential effects to it. When Jayakumar sir said about that one, what is the prevalence to the involvement in the cardiology part of it, that ma'am mentioned about it, Dr. Preeti, I think it has to be from the level where it is. We wanted to bring a cracker-free society, if you remember. We wanted to bring the emission of these the diesels and so forth, and we brought it that it had to come from the manufacturing level, कि उसको बंद ही कर दीजिए, and let us go to the levels where the emissions are less. So I think it has to be really tapped upon the school levels, that, and that's when it's not going to get percolated not only on the children aspect of it but also in the families, because they are our biggest ambassadors in the society. So because we have had a group who've used these e-cigarettes, but we've seen the oral pre-cancers getting, the conversion from oral pre-cancers to cancers are much faster than, a person who's just using some of the smokeless tobacco part of it. Because I think it not only induces that it loses its when these children, or when this group start using the e-cigarettes, they lose their appetite too. In turn, there is a deficiency which is developing, there is an atrophy of the mucosa, and I'm sure my colleagues of the ENT surgeons also would probably second to, what has been the studies saying, that esophageal cancers, oral cancers, of course lung cancers. Dr. Khilnani sir mentioned about the different aspects of the side effects to it as well. And maybe we listen to Dr. Mittal ma'am and about the involvement in the pregnancy part of it, the low preterm babies and so forth. So I think it's a little that we should have in the next group, and a person from an education department who can help us putting some chapters or some aspects at different levels. When we had an exposure to this HIV that we were talking about, बच्चों को sensitize किया, because it's not that now the children were into involving in these activities at the age of 13, 14 or 15, as young as 9-year-old, but they're all sensitized why HIV happens, what is it, how the transmission happens. So I think we'll come to, over the years, then we can come to a level that, fine, we are at a win-win situation. Thank you so much.